The air was thick with tension in the underground military facility, the flickering fluorescent lights casting eerie shadows on the sterile walls. Captain Elara Voss stood in the center of the command room, her heart racing as she surveyed the team assembled before her. Each member was a hand-picked soldier, chosen not just for their skill in combat, but for their potential to become part of the Warborn initiative, an experimental program designed to create super soldiers capable of turning the tide against the relentless alien onslaught. Elara was no stranger to battle, but the stakes had never been this high. Outside, Earth's major cities lay in ruins, the relentless march of the alien coalition leaving destruction in its wake. Each victory for the enemy meant another city lost, another family shattered. The urgency weighed heavily on her shoulders as she faced her team, a diverse group representing the best of humanity, a sharpshooter with lightning reflexes, a tech wizard capable of hacking any system, a medic with unparalleled skills, and a heavy weapons specialist who could turn the tide of a firefight with a single shot. "Listen up," Elara commanded, her voice steady and firm. "We have one chance to make a difference. The Warborn Initiative is our last hope, and it's not just about enhanced abilities. It's about embracing the will to fight for humanity. Each of you has something unique to bring to this team. Together, we can break the chains of oppression." As she spoke, images of the destruction flashed on the holographic display behind her, cities engulfed in flames, families torn apart, and the alien ships looming ominously in the sky. The resolve in her team's eyes sparked a fire in her own heart. They were the embodiment of humanity's spirit, unwilling to surrender to despair. The day of their first trial came swiftly. In the dark of night, the vanguard was dispatched to a nearby alien encampment, where forces were massing for another attack. The tension in the air was palpable as they moved through the dense foliage, each soldier acutely aware of the stakes. Elara felt her heart thumping in rhythm with the footsteps of her team, a pulse of determination echoing in the silence. As they approached the enemy's perimeter, Elara signaled for them to halt. Peering through her scope, she surveyed the alien sentries, tall, muscular figures adorned in sleek armor that glimmered under the moonlight. Their reptilian eyes scanned the area, and Elara felt a surge of anger. These were the invaders responsible for so much suffering. "On my mark," she whispered, her finger poised over the trigger. "We strike fast and hard. Remember your training." When she gave the signal, chaos erupted. The vanguard unleashed their fury, a symphony of gunfire and explosions shattering the night. Elara's enhanced senses allowed her to anticipate the enemy's movements, each shot she fired finding its mark with lethal precision. Her team moved in perfect synchronization, a dance of death that showcased the potential of their enhancements. But the battle was not without its horrors. One of their own, Marcus, a heavy weapons specialist, was caught in the open, drawing fire to protect a teammate. Elara's heart sank as she watched him take a fatal hit, the shockwaves of loss rippling through the team. The realization struck hard. They were not just soldiers, they were family. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a blood-red hue across the battlefield, the remnants of the alien encampment lay in ruins. The victory was bittersweet, marred by the price they paid. Elara gathered her team, now more determined than ever. They had awakened something deep within themselves, a warrior spirit that would drive them forward, no matter the cost. The path of the Warborn was fraught with challenges, but together they would forge ahead, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead. The days following the first battle were a whirlwind of briefings and recovery. The remnants of the vanguard found themselves grappling with both the elation of victory and the crushing weight of loss. Captain Elara Voss stood at the front of the command center, the glow of multiple screens illuminating her face as she addressed her weary team. Each soldier bore the marks of battle, bandages, bruises, and haunted expressions that told stories of their fallen comrade, Marcus. "Listen up, everyone," Elara said, her voice firm yet tinged with an undercurrent of sorrow. We've achieved something incredible, but we cannot afford to become complacent. The coalition will retaliate, and we need to be ready." Her gaze swept over the group, pausing on each soldier's face, searching for the spark of determination she had seen before. But something felt off. In the days following their initial victory, the atmosphere in the base had shifted. Whispers filled the hallways, doubts festered, and Alara sensed a rift beginning to form within her team. It was evident that their first taste of battle had ignited not just courage but also fears of the enhancements that had been bestowed upon them and what they might ultimately cost. Late one evening, Alara found herself poring over mission reports, her thoughts racing. The eerie quiet of the command center was punctuated by the soft clicks of her keyboard, but as she looked closer, a nagging feeling pulled at her gut. Certain patterns began to emerge in the attack logs, coordinated ambushes and strategic losses that didn't make sense. Someone was leaking their movements to the enemy. With a determined resolve, she called an emergency meeting. The vanguard assembled, tension crackling in the air as Alara studied their faces. "We need to talk about the recent ambushes. I believe we have a traitor among us." Gasps echoed in the room, disbelief washing over the soldiers. "That's impossible," said Jax, the sharpshooter, his voice filled with indignation. "We've trained together. We're a family." "Family or not, we need to consider every possibility," Alara replied, her voice steady but her heart heavy. "If we don't get to the bottom of this, we risk losing everything." As she spoke, she noticed the fidgeting of Ava, the team's tech specialist, her fingers nervously tapping the table. The others exchanged wary glances, suspicion swirling like a dark cloud. Alara took a deep breath, trying to quell the brewing storm. "We'll split into pairs for the next mission. We need to keep an eye on each other." The operation was a disaster. During the next engagement with the coalition forces, the vanguard fell into a well-planned ambush. Lasers cut through the air as chaos erupted around them. Alara fought fiercely, her enhanced reflexes saving her life, but her focus was shattered. The realization struck like a thunderclap. The ambush had been orchestrated by someone within their ranks. As they retreated, regrouping in a hidden alcove, Alara confronted the squad. "We need to identify the traitor. This isn't just about tactics anymore. It's about survival." During a tense standoff, Alara turned her gaze to Ava. "You've been acting strangely since we started this mission. Are you hiding something?" Ava's eyes widened in shock, but the fear in her expression was soon replaced by something darker. "You think I'm the traitor. I've been trying to protect us." She stepped back, anger boiling over. "Maybe you're the problem, Alara. You think you're the only one carrying the weight of Marcus's death? We all are." In that moment of raw emotion, Alara felt the fracture deepen. Trust had become a fragile commodity, and she was losing control. As Ava stormed out of the room, a wave of doubt washed over Alara. Could she really lead these warriors, knowing that one of them might be betraying everything they fought for? In the shadows, the truth remained elusive, lurking just beyond reach, ready to strike again. The fight for survival had taken a new form, one that was as dangerous as any alien adversary they faced. The path of the Warborn was no longer just about battles against external foes. It was a battle against the shadows within their own ranks. The tension in the Vanguard base simmered, but Captain Alara Voss knew they could not afford to be paralyzed by distrust. After the ambush, their next steps needed to be strategic. She gathered her team for a critical briefing, determined to shift their focus from internal conflict to a new mission, forging alliances with sympathetic alien factions that had also suffered under the Coalition's oppressive rule. "We cannot fight this war alone," Alara declared, her voice strong and commanding. "We need allies. There are alien species who oppose the Coalition. If we can gain their trust, we might turn the tide in our favor." The faces of her team reflected a mix of skepticism and hope. With the decision made, the Vanguard set out on a mission to the planet Zareth, rumored to be home to the Verak, a warrior race known for their martial prowess and honor. However, their reputation was marred by a history of conflict with humans, fueled by centuries of misunderstanding and prejudice. The journey to Zareth was fraught with danger. As they landed on the planet, Alara marveled at its striking beauty, lush forests filled with luminescent flora, and towering mountains shrouded in mist. But the serenity was deceptive. The Verak were notorious for their fierce defense of their territory. Alara led her team through the dense forest, aware that they were treading on sacred ground. As they approached a Verak encampment, the air crackled with tension. Armed guards, their features adorned with tribal markings and intricate armor, eyed the newcomers with suspicion. Alara stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "We come as allies, not foes," she proclaimed. "We seek to unite against the coalition that threatens us all." A tall Verak warrior stepped forward, his golden eyes assessing her carefully. "You are human. Your kind has brought only war to our people. Why should we trust you now?" Alara's heart raced. She had anticipated this hostility, but was determined to win them over. "Because we share a common enemy. The coalition seeks to enslave and destroy all who oppose them, including your people. We must fight together to survive." The Verak warrior, known as Kaler, scrutinized her. "You think words alone can change our history. You carry the blood of those who have wronged us." Just then, a distant explosion shattered the uneasy standoff. The coalition had tracked them, launching an attack on the Verak territory. Alara seized the moment. "We don't have time for old grudges. We need to act now." The guards hesitated, but Kaler nodded, recognizing the urgency. "Very well. You fight with us, human, but know this, your failure will not be forgotten." As chaos erupted around them, Alara and the vanguard sprang into action alongside the Verak warriors. The combat was brutal and exhilarating. Alara fought shoulder to shoulder with Kaler, their styles complementing each other perfectly. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to anticipate the movements of the enemy, while Kaler's brute strength shattered their lines. Amid the carnage, Alara caught a glimpse of the coalition forces, a grim reminder of the odds they faced. Yet in the heat of battle, something remarkable happened. Distrust began to fade. The Verak and humans fought as one, a dance of resilience against a common foe. As the last coalition soldier fell, the battlefield fell silent, save for the heavy breaths of the victorious. Exhausted but exhilarated, Alara turned to Kaler, who looked at her with newfound respect. "You fought well, human. Perhaps there is hope for our peoples after all." With a bond forged in the fires of battle, Alara and Kaler realized they had taken the first steps toward something greater, a united front against the coalition. The shadows of betrayal had cast a pall over the vanguard, but this alliance illuminated a path forward. Together, they would not only fight for their survival, but also strive to break the cycle of hatred and forge a new legacy for both humanity and the Verak. Alara knew that this was only the beginning. As they prepared to leave Zareth, the weight of their shared history lingered, but hope burned brighter than ever. The vanguard had found allies, and together, they would march forward into the unknown, ready to confront the challenges that awaited them. With their newfound allies in the Verak, the vanguard returned to their base, the atmosphere charged with hope and purpose. Captain Elaravos stood at the forefront of a strategic briefing, flanked by Kaler and the rest of her team. A holographic map of the coalition's stronghold floated above the table, illuminating the determined faces of those gathered. "We've learned that the coalition has a central command on their homeworld, Tarash," Alara began, her voice steady. "Taking it out will destabilize their forces and give us a chance to turn the tide in this war." The Verak warriors listened intently, their golden eyes reflecting an understanding of the stakes involved. Kaler stepped forward, his tone grave. "The stronghold is heavily fortified, surrounded by layers of defenses. Infiltrating it will require precision and strength. but if we work together, we may stand a chance. Elara nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. We'll need to create a distraction to draw their forces away from the command center. Our goal is to penetrate the heart of the coalition and strike at its core. In the days that followed, the Vanguard and their Verak allies trained relentlessly, melding their fighting styles into a seamless force. The Verak brought their unique combat techniques, emphasizing agility and cunning, while the humans contributed advanced technology and strategic planning. Elara felt a growing bond with Kaler, their shared determination to protect their peoples deepening their respect for one another. As the day of the mission arrived, tension hung heavy in the air. They boarded their stealth ships, each member focused on the task ahead. The journey through space was fraught with anticipation, the vastness of the void around them a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. When they arrived in orbit around Terrash, the beauty of the planet was overshadowed by the foreboding sight of the Coalition stronghold, a colossal fortress, bristling with weaponry and patrolled by vigilant sentries. Elara's heart raced as they began their descent. "Let's move," she ordered, her voice cutting through the silence as they approached the landing zone. The ship touched down in a concealed valley, and they disembarked, moving swiftly toward the perimeter of the stronghold. The plan was simple but dangerous. Create a diversion at the front gates while a smaller team, led by Elara and Kaler, slipped through a maintenance tunnel to access the command center. As they advanced, the sound of distant explosions echoed in the air. The diversion had begun, drawing the attention of the coalition forces. Elara's heart pounded as they reached the entrance to the maintenance tunnel, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The darkness enveloped them as they navigated through the narrow passage. The air was thick with the scent of grease and metal, and Elara felt the weight of uncertainty. Would they succeed, or would this be their last mission? They emerged into the control room, the heart of the Coalition's operations. Holographic displays flickered with data, showcasing troop movements and strategic plans. Elara's eyes widened as she realized the magnitude of what they could achieve here. They had to destroy this command center. Just as they began to set charges, alarms blared throughout the stronghold. "We've been discovered," Kaler shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The room erupted into chaos as coalition soldiers stormed in, weapons drawn. Elara's mind raced. "We need to hold them off." She rallied her team, their training kicking in as they fought back against the oncoming tide. The skirmish was intense. Blaster fire lit up the room, and the air crackled with tension. As the Vanguard and Verak warriors fought valiantly, Elara spotted the central control panel, a target that could cripple the Coalition's operations. With a surge of determination, she made a beeline for it, dodging enemy fire as she went. Kaler was at her side, his strength and speed covering her as they reached the panel. "Now or never," he shouted, his voice booming over the chaos. Elara pressed the activation button, and a countdown began. "We need to get out," she yelled, urgency in her tone. As they fought their way back through the stronghold, the countdown echoed in Elara's mind. Would they make it out alive? The mission was a gamble, but they were determined to win this battle. With the explosion shaking the fortress, they raced through the corridors, the sounds of destruction behind them a testament to their audacity. As they finally burst out into the open air, the sight of their ships waiting below was a beacon of hope. They leaped aboard, the explosion behind them illuminating the night sky. They had struck at the heart of the Coalition, but the true test was yet to come. Would their victory be enough to inspire hope in a war-torn galaxy? Elara glanced at Kaler, and in that moment, they both understood. Their fight had just begun. The explosion behind them illuminated the darkened sky of Terrash, a brilliant fireball that marked the collapse of the Coalition's command center. Captain Elara Voss stood at the helm of their ship, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. They had dealt a significant blow to their enemy, but the cost of their success still hung heavily in the air. As the ship soared into the atmosphere, the cheers of her team reverberated through the cabin. The Varric warriors, their fierce faces reflecting the thrill of battle, raised their weapons in celebration. Kaler, standing beside Alara, grinned with a pride she had come to admire. "We did it," he exclaimed, his voice booming over the din. "The Coalition will think twice before challenging us again." Alara's smile faltered for a moment as she reflected on the fallen comrades, the soldiers they had lost in the battle. "We have to remember those who sacrificed everything for this victory," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We owe it to them to build a better future." As the ship broke through the clouds and into the vastness of space, Alara turned to the holographic display. They were now en route to the Coalition's home base, where remnants of their forces remained. The chaos of their recent victory had created a window of opportunity, one they needed to seize before the enemy could regroup. Upon arriving at their base, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The Vanguard and their Varric allies were greeted with cheers, but the reality of their losses tempered the celebration. Alara stood before her assembled team, her heart swelling with pride for what they had accomplished together. "We've struck a blow against tyranny today," she began, her voice carrying over the crowd. "But this is only the beginning. We have the opportunity to reshape our destinies, to build alliances that will last beyond this war." The team murmured in agreement, their spirits lifted by her words. The Varric had pledged their support, and they were now ready to fight for not just their survival, but also for the freedom of all oppressed races across the galaxy. Days turned into weeks as the Vanguard regrouped and strategized their next moves. They sent out messages across the cosmos, calling upon other factions, planets, and species to join their cause. A sense of unity began to blossom, transcending old rivalries and forging new bonds. Alara found herself increasingly involved with Kaler, their partnership growing stronger. Together, they worked on fostering alliances and planning joint missions, learning from one another as they navigated the complexities of diplomacy. They shared stories of their peoples, realizing that while their backgrounds differed, their goals aligned. Then, the moment arrived when their united forces would take the fight to the remnants of the Coalition. Armed with a coalition of diverse warriors, the Vanguard led an assault against the stronghold on Tirash, a fierce display of courage and determination. Alara fought alongside Kaler, their teamwork honed from countless battles. The fierce sounds of combat surrounded them as they charged into the fray, flanking their enemies with precision. As they pressed forward, Alara felt a surge of hope coursing through her veins. This was the dawn of a new era. In the heat of battle, the Vanguard pushed through enemy lines, reclaiming territory once lost. They fought not only for survival, but for a vision of a galaxy united against oppression. Each victory strengthened their resolve, and each challenge reinforced their bonds. As the remnants of the Coalition crumbled before them, Alara found herself standing on a hill overlooking the battlefield. The sun began to rise, casting golden rays over the horizon, signaling a new day. Her team, once fractured and uncertain, had transformed into a powerful coalition ready to defend their newfound freedom. In that moment, Alara understood that they were more than just warriors. They were champions of hope, guardians of a future that embraced diversity and unity. The path of the Warborn was not merely a journey of survival, it was a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and its allies. As they celebrated their hard-fought victory, Alara raised her weapon high, her voice ringing out over the crowd. "Today we stand together, not as humans or Varric, but as allies united in our quest for peace. Together, we will ensure that this dawn shines brightly for all." Cheers erupted, echoing across the landscape a declaration of their shared purpose. Together, they would forge a new dawn, a galaxy where the shadows of betrayal were eclipsed by the light of hope, forever shaping their legacies and the future of countless worlds.